Welcome to episode number 1 of the Battered Soccer Fans. I am your
Mhm,
host,
mhm.
Daniel Granada. Next to me right here, over here, my
Yeah,
bad.
there, yeah.
There you go. We got
Yeah.
Ben Borges, and below us, we got my man, Kris Duran.
What up? What
Let's
up?
let me kick it over to Ben first. How you doing, Mr. Benjamin Borges?
Good man, good. Enjoying this off season. That's never really an off season in soccer. There's
No
always
such
something
thing.
going on, man. No such thing.
Mhm.
No sport like it in the world, man. That's why it's numero uno. What's going on, Kris? How you been,
What
brother?
up? What up? Good, good. Talking about soccer. I mean, it's a new world for me, but it is what it is. I'd like to get into it. It's definitely pretty interesting, jam packed with
Well,
stuff.
well, yeah. I mean, that's why we brought Kris into the show. It's always fun.
Mhm.
I've only been really deep into soccer for the last 10 years. Ben, roughly the same, 8, 9 years.
Yeah.
But we have a
Same player
new.
brought us in.
Yes.
Sorry.
Oh,
Yeah.
well, we'll get into that later.
Yeah.
But but we got Kris here, who is just dipping his toes into the soccer world, and I like to take some credit for it. I persuaded Kris into getting season tickets into Inter Miami. He got season
Mhm.
tickets. I told him it'd be worth it. It's just a regular date night with his wife sometimes, and I mean, he's really gotten into it. So much so that now you're getting your son into it, no?
Oh yeah, most definitely. I mean, it's interesting because when I talk about like the soccer, Inter Miami and MLS, to other people who know soccer, they kind of tell me, they just brush me off, and it's like, go watch real soccer, go watch the Premier League and all this other stuff. It's like, hey man, I'm just getting to know this stuff.
Yeah.
And my son is definitely starting to get into it, which I mean, it's always a good avenue to take. I think at least just getting the start.
No, and it's now that your son's going to get into it, I'm sure it's going to get you a little deeper into it. Because let me tell you something: when kids get into a sport, they become obsessed. They start learning the players, the teams. Then he'll eventually start watching soccer from other countries. And next thing you know, you're really going to get into it because you're going to be following that conversation along with him. So it's very exciting. I'm excited for you.
Yeah. I mean, I'm definitely excited. I mean, it's a lot of information to take in, but I'm here to learn it all. So.
No, I wanted to jump off the that point that Kris just made, that people brush him off about MLS not being real soccer. I think this is a perfect segue over to Ben, because I've been trying to get Ben into some MLS also. Now, as we said, Kris and I are Inter Miami season ticket holders. I've been trying to get Ben down to a game for a while now, right? Because I told him whenever he comes, I got a ticket for him. But he's been reluctant because he's a soccer snob. He's only been into soccer for about 8, 9 years, but he's become a snob, right? He thinks that European is the be all end all. And although admittedly it is the best, it is not the be all end all, sir. We have soccer here in this country also.
Yeah. I mean, look, yes, right. But also you leave out the little story of it wasn't just European soccer. Me and you happen to be fans of the biggest and best club in the history of it.
Yes.
Right. Like, so it's very hard to go see the Golden State Warriors and be like, yo, you know what? I'm gonna watch the Knicks now. You know what I mean? Like, it's so being us being Real Madrid fans.
Yeah.
It's a different level. What we like, it's hard for me to watch other teams at the top level when I'm like, yo, but it's not Real Madrid. Right. So like, from going to that to trying to watch MLS, and I've done it. Like, I might not watch a full 90, but I'll catch the highlights and the extended highlights to really get a feel for it. Like, I watched the Inter Miami highlights of the last game that you guys were, I'm sure, were at. Like, I like that kid. Was it Duke? Noah Duke? Is it Noah Duke?
Bryce Duke.
Bryce Duke. Son, like,
we're gonna get into that in a bit.
Some those little dimes that he had with the through passes, there should have been 4 goals on that. Like, that's what I like to see. And also, before you guys being season ticket holders, for me, right? Like, the issue with Inter Miami in a way for me was like the hype, like the salesmanship that David Beckham had in the press conferences, right? Like, oh, we're gonna get Messi, Ronaldo. All you got was Blaise Matuidi and Higuain, both of them. Like, that's not, you know what I mean? Like, you passed on a bit. Like, we can get into all of that because I might not be in it, but I'm in it. You know what I mean? Like, I know what's going on in that world even if I can't watch a full 90.
Well, I think from your perspective, especially for a person that started watching soccer on a bigger stage, I can imagine that watching the MLS, it's literally watching kindergartens play. Because you're literally watching.
No, don't do that. Don't do that.
In the sense of you're talking about people that watch the Premier League or watch the bigger leagues in Europe. I mean, obviously, you're getting the best of the best in terms of, how these players have been brought up through which system. I mean, that's something that I've been reading into too. There's a lot of people that have been brought up in European systems versus, Argentinian versus Colombian. Like, there's a lot of that going on. And then so there's this thing of like this, there's this like complex of like I'm the greater in the sense of people that watch those leagues versus the MLS. Right. I mean, the MLS, I just learned like this soccer league has been here for a while, but it's starting to get
30 years,
25 years,
some
25.
sort, and it's starting to get some notoriety. I mean, the David Beckham thing, that's, I get the idea, and especially in Miami where the market is it's there for soccer fans, it's there for soccer players. It's just about getting the right attention, I get.
But okay, first of all, don't placate this snob over here, okay? Don't try to give him a kudos for that stupid point he made. Let's get something clear. Let's get something clear. It is top and elite soccer when you watch Barcelona against Real Madrid or Atletico Madrid, or if you're talking about Premier League, when you're talking about Chelsea and Manchester City. Those are the top teams. But remember that there's 20 teams in that league. And if you're going to watch the bottom half of that league,
trash bags,
same as watching the MLS. I'm sorry. If you put that on TV and you take away the names and the EPL logos, you can't tell the difference between that and MLS. Don't tell me that Burnley and West Ham are having or Aston Villa are having a classic, and that game that we just watched with Inter Miami against Minnesota is worse. That was dramatic. That was good soccer.
Hey, real quick, let's not get us killed with these hooligans that are like part of the mafia in those clubs, like the West Hams. You know what I mean? Like, let's hey, all respect to
let's
West
not
Ham.
Get hunted.
Yeah, you guys are a great 8th seed or whatever, like mid-table club.
We're on this side of the pond. I'm not worried about them.
I know, but they'll show. Hey, listen, bro, you don't know what they're capable of. Right? They got Jackson Teller in a movie. So look, yes, you're right. Right, like the bottom table of those leagues are comparable in a way, right? But the problem is the bottom table at times can seem like the whole league. For me, was because look, for me, I'm very much so a person who first impression is everything, right? I knew about yes, I started watching soccer religiously in the last 10 years, right? When James went to Real Madrid, and I kind of like in a way discovered that whole universe, right? Like, about these clubs, but with MLS when it started, it tried to be like a totally different thing. Like, try to take their penalties from the midfield.
Yeah, it was like a fast break one-on-one. Yeah,
it wasn't serious, right? So that's the first interaction you have.
It was gimmicky. It was like the XFL.
Yeah, exactly. Like, it wasn't serious. So it was like they could have just gone with what everybody else had established and just built on that. But they tried to be like their own thing and make up their own. Like, it just got weird. Yes, MLS players have improved. MLS players have improved. They sell off and they do difference. They play great and develop without a doubt. But consistently, it's hard. But it's hard to get into it when I don't understand the rules of MLS. Right? Like, I know European soccer with transfer fees and all this stuff. Like, once you start getting into the nitty gritty of MLS, like DPs and TAMs and all these other, like, it gets weird.
It's the same. Bro. It's the same.
Yeah, but it's not though. It's not though, because you have to play the MLS and the club. You have to come to an agreement to you know what I mean? Like, with if you do a transfer from Atletico Madrid to Chelsea, you just go 1-to-1, right? Like, there's a fee you have to pay the club, you have to pay the league, and then the club, and then both of those have to agree. If one disagrees, that guy gets stuck. Like what happened to Aaron Long 3-4 years ago before he tore his ACL, right? He was supposed to go to the EPL. The league cleared it, but the club didn't. And then he just stayed there, never left, and never really then got hurt. And then, you know what I'm saying? Like, that's where it gets weird for me. Like, because the lack of similarity, like the blueprint is already set. Why be, you know what I'm saying? Why be different?
The reason I think they're trying to be different is to keep it competitive. Look, soccer is a growing sport in this country. Yes or no?
Yes. Facts.
And it's growing rapidly. But there's still a lot of people that aren't soccer fans. There's still people that when you bring up soccer, they're like, you know?
Yeah.
But so if you have a soccer team, let's say in Utah, Real Salt Lake, right? I think they have a pretty good soccer following. But let's say hypothetically,
they actually have a Cuban-born player on that team, which is really funny. A Cuban guy in Utah.
Look at that. We even got Cuban players now.
Yeah,
But so let's say hypothetically they're trying to grow that fan base in Utah. But it becomes kind of like the Premier League where the bottom teams are always on the bottom because there's no parity. In Europe, it doesn't matter. They're used to that for over 100 years. They have their fan base. So they don't care if the popularity grows or doesn't because that they're set. We're still trying to grow that here. So how do you grow that and be top heavy? You can't do that. If you're trying to get the whole country behind this, you need every city to be invested. And for every city to be invested, you need some type of parity. So that's why I like what they're doing right now with the DPs. I hope that eventually we get to a point where, fuck it, you got money, go ahead and just spend it. But I understand the parity right now. They want everybody to have a chance because that's the only way that we're going to get this soccer thing to grow.
But
across the country.
But I think that's where it differs for American sports versus, I guess, sports in Europe or whatever the case is. I think in American sports, parity and the underdog are huge attention grabbers in terms of getting people that aren't as involved in sports to watch the sport. Everybody likes an underdog story. So that to me speaks millions in terms of what it is that you're talking about.
I agree with you, but we have a friend named Romain. He watches all kinds of basketball, no matter what it is, NBA, NCAA, out at the park, YouTube leagues. He'll watch it all. So he'll appreciate an underdog story because he enjoys watching basketball. You ask Romain to appreciate an underdog story when it comes to a soccer team, he won't give three craps because he doesn't like soccer. So what I'm saying is that you need to grow the love of soccer. And to do that, you need somebody to be invested in their city's team or in their state's team or whatever it may be. We need that love to grow organically. And then we could worry about underdog stories and stuff when people are just watching soccer just to watch soccer. Right now, we're still trying to build that up, I think. And I think that that's why the parity is necessary. And I think that that's why they're still doing the whole 3DP things.
Go ahead, Ben.
Look, I agree with what you're saying, right? But I'm a person who believes you need the evil empire, right? Mm-hmm. Like you need that team that everybody wants to beat, right? Like you show up to beat. You need a Floyd Mayweather, right? Like you might hate Floyd Mayweather, but you're gonna show up to see if he loses. Right, like that brings, and that's where they're missing it. Like right now, and you see it, right? You see with LAFC getting retirees and Cellini, right?
And Cellini,
so they have two players that are on their way out, and like that can but can't happen. Like that has to be a younger player. Like it has to be like an up and comer at 28, 29, not 34, 35, 36, right? Because then
that's coming also. It's happening more and more often.
Right, and those players are being discovered. Like you got like the kid Campana for Inter Miami. Like you see these players coming up, but when that's the attention grabber of Gareth Bale going there, Gareth Bale isn't the player that brings bells in a way, right? Because Gareth Bale to the outsiders, like, oh shit, Gareth Bale's there, but to us who knows that Gareth Bale hasn't played 5 out of the last 6 seasons because he prefers golf and only playing for Wales. To us, it doesn't really ring bells, right? Because we know that squad. We know who he is. So it's hard to grow in that way because there's a lot of people here who just don't like soccer. To me, it's my favorite sport, right? Like I have my favorite teams, but as far as a sport, I absolutely love it. I'll watch highlights of almost anybody. I'll seek out a random right back for the U.S. that plays in Belgium. You know what I mean? To like see how he plays and see how he moves and stuff like that. Because to me, it's the most beautiful, intricate game that there can possibly be. Because you'll see things on a soccer pitch that you can't imagine are possible without it. It's just insane. So to grow, I think you need that bad guy, right? And I guess LAFC is trying to be that. But
LA Galaxy also. Those are the big boys.
Exactly.
LA Galaxy, LAFC, and then Seattle is just their academy, so they're just being good without names. But when it comes to big names, LAFC and LA Galaxy. And that's what everybody hopes that Inter Miami becomes. Whenever there's a rumor out there, you randomly hear Inter Miami, and they're talking about like big clubs in Europe, but Inter Miami randomly gets thrown in there. So I think Miami's going to throw their hat into that ring and eventually get one of those big name players. They unfortunately have 3 DPs right now that, I mean, Higuain barely plays, and then we have Pizarro, which is loaned off, and Matuidi, which is basically an ambassador because he doesn't do anything. He never even suits up. So,
which, by the way, why is it that he never plays? I mean,
because he's old, he's an ass. He's not an ass. He's ass on the field. Like he's past his prime. It's over for him, unfortunately. But they signed him, and they're using him as an ambassador now. If you go to the stadium early enough, you could take a picture with the World Cup champion. He was part of that. He was a starter for that team that won the championship in 2018 and for France. So like he was a big time player, but he fell off big time. And we got him. We thought he was going to be serviceable, and he had 1 or 2 good games, I guess. But I mean, he's a CDM that wasn't really producing much.
Well, I think that as long as Inter Miami stays existing, even if they're in Broward at this moment, the fact that they are a Miami team, I feel like in the MLS, they're going to garner attention just based on the demographic here and based on the location. You know, I remember earlier in the season, a lot of people were talking about this guy, James Rodriguez, going over to Inter Miami. And
I still have hope.
You know, if he was to go, I mean, you're grabbing a ton of the Colombian fan base. They're definitely going to buy in.
He's not even 30 yet, I think.
But then I've also heard a lot of negative stuff about him, about whether he plays often, how good he is, how effective he is, depending on the market that he's in. And Miami's a party city. So you're talking about a guy who's a party guy in a party city with a bunch of other Colombian party ass people. You know, it might not be the greatest mix of all time for this kid. You know,
I will tell you, I agree with what you're saying, but I will tell you that's the draw to Miami also.
Oh, most definitely.
Europeans have 2 destinations when they come to the United States. They don't go to New York because they live in the cold. Europe is just all cold. Like it's horrible to live over there. If you live in London, forget about it. You get the sun like 3 days a year. Like it's just a horrible place to be.
It's Alaska.
So, right. So you go to either LA or you go to Miami. Those are the 2 spots. You look at, if you follow any soccer player on social media right now in the summertime, if they're in the United States at least, they're in LA or they're in Miami. That's it. So those are going to be the 2 destinations for where they're going to go play after they're done in Europe. Well, so we're going to get somebody like Messi next year. And eventually, younger players are going to start coming over, I think.
Well, you know, I've also noticed that at the Atlanta team, I don't know, is it a new stadium that they have? Because they
play in the Falcon Stadium, the Mercedes-Benz.
Oh, okay, I see. Because I've noticed that every time they have a game, they get fans out there.
Oh no, yeah, they got a fan base.
And we're talking about Atlanta, you know. I mean, it's not the middle of nowhere. I mean, there's some stuff to do in Atlanta, you know.
I think what happens, and you're right about Atlanta, right? Like, I think what happens with Miami is like, for especially having left Miami, going back to Miami, as not as often as I used to, but I think what happens with Miami is like a lot of people feed into like their own stereotype of like, we don't show up unless it's an event, right? Like, oh, somebody, no, it's not 100%. It's too small for me. As if you working at Publix going to an Inter Miami game, it's too small of a move for you, right? Like everybody believes that they're too important. In Atlanta, they've never won anything, right? Like, I don't think maybe the Braves have won a World Series. Like the Braves have won a couple World Series, but other than that,
they won it.
Like they're not a team. They're not a city that wins. Like Miami's won at every level. So for us, like if it's not the finals or national championship, like why?
Let's be clear: the Dolphins haven't won
since '73
recently. So.
Yeah, no, I know, but that's why I'm not saying Dolphins. You didn't hear me say a Super Bowl, right? Like you see me stop.
You said everything. Finals. I don't know.
Right. No, I said everything. That I gave specifics of finals and national championships.
But I think
the Braves won the World Series last year.
I think he's on. I think he's on point though, because Miami typically and almost every sport has been competitive in their leagues, respectively throughout certain periods of time. So, I mean, it's like you said, in Miami, it's either you're competitive and I'm giving you attention, or you're not, and I'm putting I'm putting a bag over my face.
Facts.
But the draw here in Miami, although I do agree that it's an event town, but I think the draw here is, I mean, when you think Miami, you think Latin people, right? And for the most part, when you're talking about South Americans, even Central Americans, I mean, a lot of us are just into soccer. That's just what it is. And we love soccer. So I think that that's going to help bring the fans once the stadium is down in Miami. The fact that it's in Broward has made it very difficult for people to want to go all the way over there.
Oh,
it's
yeah.
a commute. It's a 50-minute drive for me every time I go.
Too far.
Well, but the thing is, I think that it's radical that it is in Broward County. You know what I mean? Like, you couldn't even
North Broward.
Yeah, like you couldn't even come closer to Miami-Dade. That to me was just shenanigans. In terms of, I don't know where the negotiation flopped. I did look into how they were trying to, pick a place to build the stadium. I mean, there was Bayside. There was some place in Overtown, some place like in.
But they got it though. They got it now.
Well, yeah, they finally ended up getting it close to the Miami International Airport, which I think it's a great location.
For sure.
I mean, I don't think it's the best. I think if they would have landed the Bayside spot, I think that would have been just a beautiful space to be able to put it in. But it would have been really inconvenient, I imagine.
I mean, not to get too into geography, but the fact that they're going to have it right on the 836, where you also have the Miami Marlins on the 836, and at the end of 836, you also end up at the AAA, or what's it called, FTX now?
FTX, yeah.
I feel like they're all going to be like lined up perfectly. I think it's a nice spot to be.
Well,
especially
and I think
the airport.
And I think with the way that Inter Miami is trending, I think that they're trending in the right direction. I mean, I was just looking over the standings. I mean, in the Eastern Conference, they're in 8th place. I mean, are you out of it in 8th place, or are you still in it in 8th place? Because I think the top 7 make it. So, I mean, they're going to need some help because they got, they're in 8th place.
But they have 7 games coming up in July. 6 of them are regular season and 1 against Barcelona. So, I mean, this is a big month if you're an Inter Miami fan, because you got a lot of soccer ahead of you, and they got some tough competition. So this is like a make or break month. If they can get 3 or 4 wins this month, they'll be in good shape. They'll make the playoffs. If they don't, I mean, it's going to be tough to recover.
Which, I mean, the game, obviously, it doesn't count. The Barcelona game doesn't count towards their records.
No, you're just hoping that they don't get mollywopped.
Yeah, it's a bad look for sure.
Yeah. That's all you hope. You hope that they make it competitive, because nobody's expecting them to win. If they can make it competitive, though, I think it goes a long way. But the thing is, I don't even know if they're going to play their starters, because they have a game on the 13th, then on the 16th, and then the Barcelona game's on the 19th. So it's technically almost 3 games in a week. So I mean, you want to win your. I mean, what really matters is the regular season that's going on for you. So I can't imagine that they're gonna have all their starters playing in that Barcelona game, even if you don't want to get mollywopped. I mean, they signed this new kid, Quarantine. He's French, so I'm assuming it's not Jean. It must be Jean, right? Is that how you say it?
Jean, yes.
Jean.
Quarantine Jean.
Probably don't even pronounce the ends, just Jean.
So they signed him, so I'm sure that he'll probably get some play since he's brand new to the scene. But I really don't think that those players are going to get too much run for that game.
I think as far as a fan grab, they have to play mostly starters, because you're not going to send out the B squad to play Barcelona. Like, tossing it over to you, Ben. I mean, this is your world we're talking about now. In terms of the
snobby soccer
douchebaggery of soccer fanerism.
Right. Yes.
When it comes to Barcelona, another thing that I've heard about them is that they've actually sort of fallen off in terms of where they were before versus where they are now. I mean, I wouldn't know too much, but I imagine that's got to have some truth to it, no?
Yeah, I'll give you the quick rundown. They made a lot of bad investments on players that never panned out. They paid 180 million euros, which translated
Dembele?
to Dembele, and you had Griezmann that same year. off of one selling of Neymar when they should have gone.
By the
younger.
way, not just a quick. I heard Griezmann might end up into Miami this offseason, but okay, go ahead.
Yeah, I don't know. Okay, but DP's right. We don't have a DP. We need.
I'm not sure how that works with the Pizarro loan and the Matuidi ambassador. I don't know if we can get out of one of those two.
Yeah, one of those two
Right.
have got to go. Yeah, Griezmann would be okay, I guess, because I haven't really seen Griezmann. Griezmann hasn't been good in like 4 seasons.
He's 30.
I know, but 30 is different, right? Like 30 is different for everybody. Everybody isn't LeBron. Everybody isn't Messi or Ronaldo. So look, Barcelona made a bunch of bad investments. They have a bunch of good young players. Some of their players will be in the World Cup that are 18, 19 years old. Their B squad is scary, but they're just young because I think for a while they were actually in debt while being worth like $6 billion because they didn't have any cash. They had to like sell their stadium rights to Spotify, so they have bunch of issues. But
hey, real quick, just a sidebar here.
Mhm.
What's the name of this kid that Piqué ended up cheating on Shakira with? His mom?
Gavi? Is it Gavi?
I thought you might know off the top of your head.
No. I didn't, son. I didn't even know. I knew he cheated because it went from Shakira on a Monday. Like he's the best center back in the world. Real quick, we're doing tea on this podcast. Like we're talking reality TV.
A little bit of tea.
Let me tell you something. Gavi, Gavi.
Yeah, I figured it was Gavi. I didn't think it was gonna be.
I'm sorry. I know it's completely off soccer topic, but I mean, I felt like it needed to be addressed because I mean, Barcelona has look
because we hate Piqué.
Chris, let's look. Yes, we're Real Madrid fans, so we hate Barcelona by nature.
Yeah,
that's why I would never go to that Inter Miami game because I don't want to see them whoop my team. So, Chris, tell me how would this work for you? You go and you start playing for the Knicks, right? Chris is a Knicks fan.
Yeah,
I know.
And then you get an older guy. I don't know. You're 35, so say he's 50. He's your teammate. He's your role model. You look up to this guy. Then you find out that not only did he cheat on his wife, but he cheated on her with your mom.
Oh, man, that's wild, man.
How is that going to affect your, in the locker room? That has to affect it somehow. I can't imagine that's a
fight that guy. I don't give a crap whether he cheated on his wife. Why are you coming after my mom like that, dude? It's like so many other moms in this world. I don't need you coming after my mom.
I mean, your mom's a grown woman. She can make her own decisions.
Yeah,
I didn't think you would want
play
to
with
fight
me,
him,
bro. You play with me. I play with you.
Fight him, but I just thought it was.
Why you gotta play with? Why you gotta mess with my mom? I play with you.
I just didn't think
That's
that the chemistry there because Piqué's supposed to be. It's like he's the leader. He's the leader of the team.
Isn't he from Spain?
Yeah.
Barcelona. He considers himself not Spaniard. He considers himself Catalonia because they want independence. That's getting into politics. So I did not know. I knew something that happened with him and Shakira because I remember on Monday, it all happened within a span of like 3 days when she found out. On Monday, she said he was the best center back in the world, which he has never been. That's what I was like. No. Oh, this bitch is crazy.
He wasn't even the best on the same national team.
Yeah, or on his team.
I don't know. Puyol was there. Yeah, definitely not.
Yeah, Puyol was there. No, let's just push that aside. And then on a Wednesday, they're getting divorced. I was like, what happened? You just lied for him to the whole world.
That's a lot. That's a lot to happen.
Yeah, son, it was crazy. But look,
yeah.
No, I would personally. I'm gonna curse her. Fuck Barcelona forever. It's just the way I feel. I can't ever change that. That's just a team I absolutely hate. And I hope they lose to everybody forever. I hope Inter Miami squashes them. That's because I will never root for them. I will never root
Definitely wishful thinking.
And I hope in that game they have 6 subs. So you play almost like the MLS All-Star games where you play your starters or bring them in late and do something like that. But you can't play the starters too long because you're trying to make the playoffs.
It matters. Yeah, right. For Barcelona, this is preseason. They're warming up for their season. This is literally dead in the middle of the season. Inter Miami's doing this to try to get some ticket sales, some good pub, because, I mean, if you have Barcelona playing you, they're not going to play against Real Salt Lake, right? They're playing against the known teams in MLS. So I understand why it's good, But man, for it to be dead in the middle of the season, it's rough. It's rough. They can't play the starters, and if they play the starters, it has to be the first 30 minutes of the game or so. Like they can't run them out there too long.
Well, I think another reason why I could see the starters playing is because, I mean, look, let's face it, you kind of want to see how they stack up against some other better players in Europe. I think this is a sort of a true test. I mean, it's definitely exposure for sure. You're definitely going to grab a lot of fans that are Barcelona fans, but you're also going to be able to kind of see as a coach, Phil Neville's going to be able to see, which guys can be able to take some of the pressure from these big names,
Bryce Duke is gearing up to be a number 10. I don't know if I don't know how that works if Messi really does come next year, but Bryce Duke, the more he's played, the better he's looked. He's been dropping dimes. He's been winning duels in the middle of the field. He's been producing big time, and he's been, I think, the standout. If it wasn't for Indiana Vasilev scoring those 2 goals, obviously, which one was off of a dime for Bryce Duke would have been player of the game just because he balled that game. He played very well.
He balled. He stood out to me. Like Vasilev came in as a sub in like this, I don't know, 60-something minute. Like he came
82nd or 83rd minute.
Jesus. So he came in and balled, but Bryce Duke to me was the standout. Like Kris, so now watching soccer, right? Like you have, like, as you expand in your knowledge and your education of it, because it does take a lot to learn. Like one of the things you look out for, you'll see like the player who gets the notoriety won't always be the best player. Like me and Danny in our time watching it, right? Like watching Real Madrid, like you think like, oh, it's just Ronaldo and Benzema and all these guys. Then you realize, nah, bro, this kid Luka Modric 8-9 years ago might be all right. And then as you see him grow, he's a midfielder that might not have all the goals and the assists, but the way he controls the entire game and orchestrates everything becomes like a whole different animal where like in one soccer game, you could have multiple quarterbacks, right? Like you could have a Tom Brady and a Pat Mahomes on the same team at the same time, making different plays work, right? Yep. So like that's what I liked. That's why I watched, like when I watched like the highlights of it. I just watched the game, then I was like, all right, let me analyze this a little bit. That's when Bryce Duke stood out to me. I was like, yo, like this dude's dropping, he's dropping passes that I hadn't seen in a highlight before. I hadn't seen that through ball. It was usually like Higuain to somebody who didn't make that run because they don't recognize it. Now they have somebody behind him in a Duke that can pass it off to Campana and do it like that to set it all up. That's how you start watching. You start watching the levels of it. And then it just opens it all up. We're like, holy shit, there's so much more to this than you can possibly imagine.
Well, I mean, to me, ever since I've started watching soccer, especially at least for Inter Miami, I've come to realize, like, for example, speaking of Bryce Duke, to me, consistently, he's been sort of like a breath of fresh air in terms of how he plays and how he sort of dictates what occurs on the field. Like a lot of people talk very highly of this guy, Jean Mota, and Jean Mota is good, but it seems to me like we're kind of getting the same thing out of Bryce Duke, and this guy Jean Mota is just getting all of this sort of notoriety. Like, I mean, there's guys on the team and he's such a great passer. That's one thing that I love about him. Like, there's guys like Victor Ulloa, whatever his name is, Robin Time.
Ulloa,
yeah, Ulloa. You got what's his name? You got a guy, I think
your boy Lassiter.
Roger Taylor.
Robert Taylor.
Well, I mean, Lassiter's
your boy, and Robert Taylor is Neymar light. When you see Robert Taylor and the footwork that he does, it's like, man, that kid's filthy.
Yeah, I mean, look, he's good, but I mean, I don't know how old he is compared to Bryce Duke. I think this kid, Bryce Duke's like a freaking baby, just came out the womb. Like, if we can be able to sort of hone his skill in Inter Miami and hold on to him for a long time, I mean, you're going to have somebody that's going to be able to be productive for your squad for many seasons to come.
Bryce Duke is 21.
Yeah, no, I mean, he's 21, and looking it up, this guy Jean Mota's 28. You got I mean, Ryan, no, not Ryan Saylor. What's his face? Victor Ulloa is freaking 30. Like, I mean, what are we doing here? You know what I'm saying? Like what are
I
these
respect
guys
that.
even? What are these guys even still doing
Well,
here?
and
Like,
Noah Allen, who's gotten some time with the U21 USA team. That kid's, I
Mhm.
think he's like 17, 18. So,
Kid's a
I mean,
baller.
the Inter Miami, their academy, you know what? And I will tell you, not to get too deep into this, but Inter Miami's U15 academy, they've been playing very well against. I think they played against Barcelona the other day, and they lost 4-3. They lost 4-3. But when you're putting up a fight against a Barcelona U15
Yep.
team, your academy's on its way up. So Inter
Yeah.
Miami is doing okay. And when they clear these, look, we could put a bow on Inter Miami for now. But let me just finish with this. Inter Miami is in eighth place right now in the East, right? One spot away
Mhm.
from the playoffs. And they're doing this literally with no DPs. They have 3 spots that are supposed to be filled for 3 impact players, right? Like stars. And they are right outside the playoffs without those. Imagine when they fill those in. Imagine if Messi really comes and if he brings Luis Suarez, like everybody's saying that he was, or if they bring
oof.
in James, or if they bring in 3. I know, man. It's so unbelievable that those are the guys that are gonna end up on my team. But if they
Paul
can
Pierce
fill
to
in
me, bro.
those 3 DP spots and
Mhm.
add it to the core that they have already, Inter Miami's set up in the future to be very good.
I
I
think
mean, that's what.
Higuain is getting humbled though. I feel like
Oh
he's
yeah.
getting humbled real
Oh
quick,
yeah.
and I feel
Oh
like
yeah.
he is. I feel like he is
He lost his
making a
starting spot to
turn.
Campana.
Yeah, I mean, he's recognizing, and I think that he's starting to get more humbled, and I think that he's making a more positive turn for the team. So, I mean, if there's one
Bec-
thing that I could look at in terms of DPS, I think that he's might be turning out to be a little bit better of an investment now than it was in the beginning, because he may be an asset in terms of not just how he plays, but in regards to maybe how he can be able to mentor potential attackers for the team.
I'm with you on that.
I don't know if it's clear through the screen when you're watching it on TV, but when I really started taking a negative, well, I started having a negative view of Higuain is when I started going to the games in person, and I saw his attitude, the way he reacted when somebody messed up with the bad pass, or they didn't find him when he was open on the wing or something. His attitude when he throw up his arms or just get pissed and start yelling at people. I'm like, dude, you are the star of the team. You're the leader,
Mhm.
and these guys are young kids around you. Like, you are no leader. And then when I started seeing his lazy ass running around but half-assing it, like at some point I was like, you know what, this guy's worthless.
Well,
This guy's worthless.
Ben, and Ben, let me tell you something, because you mentioned that you were watching the highlights. One highlight that I noticed, it was right at the end of the game. It was a pass in their last game where they passed it to Vasilev. He took the shot, missed it, and at the same time, you have Higuain kind of crossing through.
Mhm.
He wanted the through ball, but they didn't give him the through ball, and you see he puts his hands out like that. Like, what the hell,
Yeah.
man? You should have
Yeah.
passed it to me. And I saw that, and I was like, oh man, I really hope that those announcers don't harp on that situation. I could see where Danny's coming from.
And that sounds minimal to what he usually does. Because if he just threw his hands out there, is one thing. But man, this guy's so demonstrative in the way he's unhappy, and it just shows. And and the thing is, he had that article that came out where he said that he thought he was going to come to MLS and he was going to be playing with a cigar in his mouth. And I really think that it's reality smacked him in the face when he realized, you know what? Yeah, maybe they aren't playing players that play for Real Madrid and Barcelona and Chelsea and Manchester United and all these teams, but they're still professional players.
They're
Like,
Yes.
competitive.
Mhm.
these guys are still some of the best that you find in South America. These we have a lot of players that play for their national teams. Like, these aren't bums either. They aren't at the top of the top, but they're not bums. And I think he got smacked with reality. He didn't like it, and he reacted in a way that got him benched. Essentially, it's really what happened.
Look, to wrap up on the Inter Miami and Higuain, I've never liked Higuain. We made fun of him before he got to Inter Miami. I have a
Ludwig. Yeah.
I know. We talked about that. I don't like Higuain. I don't like Luis Suarez either. Different reasons. I don't like
Mhm.
Higuain, and it's completely stupid. I just don't like a lot of Argentinian players. I don't like the way they're all kind of demonstrative like that. they all have that like you're lucky that you're in my presence type of attitude.
Yes,
so
I could see that.
You know what I mean? So like I've never really rocked with any of them. Like that's why no Argentinian player has ever been like my favorite. So especially the way they speak Spanish just bothers the fuck out of me. That's neither here nor there.
Yeah.
But yeah, like when we got Higuain, I didn't like it. And it was how demonstrative he was. Like he's no leader. It's the reason why he's never lasted more than 2 to 3 seasons on any squad that he's ever been on. Like this is a guy that played at Real Madrid, played at Chelsea, played at Juventus, played at huge clubs for each league and never lasted very long. Always got sold off.
He was at Real Madrid for like 6 years though. He was at Real Madrid for a while.
But did he matter? You know what I mean?
That I couldn't tell you.
Exactly.
Well,
I can't name one highlight there. All I remember is like if you watch Real Madrid highlights, he's the guy that always ran to like hug somebody else because they scored. That was
his role.
That was his role. Hey man, you did it. All right. But look, I can't rock with him. And and that comment too that Danny said, like, gonna show up to the MLS smoke a cigar. Like, bro, like I have my issues with MLS, but these are professional footballers. These aren't people who you laugh and mock at.
Competitive players looking to climb the ladder too.
Exactly. Like they're trying to fight, Claw. They're giving you 100% effort. You can't come in here with that attitude, bro. Mm-mm. Like no European soccer player ever came over here and just balled out. Zlatan a little bit, but he still never won anything. Like he had highlights, but never won anything.
So well, Argentina, Chris, if you want to see something, go check out Zlatan's debut. It happened in El Tráfico.
Oh, that hat trick.
Yeah, the Galaxy against LAFC. One of the best debuts you'll ever see.
Ever.
I'm gonna have to check that out.
Oh my god, it's phenomenal.
Awesome. Well, speaking of go ahead.
Yeah. No, I was just gonna say, just watch those highlights. It's incredible. And the atmosphere, phenomenal, bro.
Yeah, yes. It's my favorite nickname for a derby. El Tráfico. Awesome.
Yeah.
That's actually I have to check that out. I mean, you were speaking about Argentina, and I looked up the World Cup information. I see they're in Group C, and the USA is Group B, and for the World Cup. What is this? It starts in 145 days.
In November.
Yeah, they had to move it to November. Right now, we would be in the middle. We'd probably be in the quarterfinals, maybe right now.
Yeah, probably
something like
finishing
that.
Up the group stage. Finishing up the group stage.
But because of Qatar somehow buying everybody off, they ended up moving into Qatar, where they've had hundreds of people die building those stadiums, and it's too hot to play in the summer. Yeah, and it's too hot to play in the summer, so they had to move it to November. They're gonna probably have 5 subs instead of 3 because it's so hot. It's a mess. Breaks. But FIFA is corrupt, so we kind of just roll with the punches.
Well, I'm looking at the stadium. I mean, this thing looks gorgeous. Yeah, like I mean, I don't know. I don't know who Qatar is. I don't know where Qatar is. I mean, but this place looks amazing.
Oil money.
Well, look, if you go on,
looks
YouTube,
like there's oil money in there.
If you go on YouTube, and I don't know if it's a Netflix documentary, but on YouTube, they have a series, or maybe it's just one long documentary where they literally just go over all of the stadiums that have been built specifically for World Cups and are now abandoned.
Well, I mean,
it happens. Well, because there's some countries that they get those, but they should because they benefit financially from it, but they don't have the stadiums. They don't have They don't have the
infrastructure.
The stadiums that we have. The infrastructure. Thank you. That's the word I was looking for. Like we have NFL stadiums. We are set. You can bring the World Cup here whenever you want because we are set for 80,000 people across the country. Everywhere. But Qatar isn't. They had to build all those. South Africa wasn't. If not all of those stadiums are not occupied right now. Was it 4 years ago?
Wasn't it Russia recently?
Yes, Russia. Now, I don't know how Russia works, but so yes, there's an awesome documentary that goes over all the abandoned stadiums across the world.
Yeah, they're like falling apart. People.
Yep.
Yeah.
Because nobody uses them.
Yeah, falling apart. People died making them. Like they I think the Qatar was importing people to like build it, and they're like the housing. They didn't have any. They were just homeless, and all they did was build this stuff. Like this. And all this
that sounds like a human resources issue there. Like
here's the thing.
Getting some bums to build your $1 gajillion oil stadium.
when you own the country, nobody looks into it. And when you own FIFA, nobody goes, "Hey man, you think this is okay?" Because that person dies. Like,
yeah, I mean, but
nobody
at
asked the
that
question.
point, who cares? It's just another homeless guy you found on the side of the street by Burger King.
Exactly. Yeah.
I mean, well,
So-
look, I mean, I'm looking at pictures and this place looks amazing. This corridor place, I mean, it looks beautiful.
I'm sure
Also-
they're all going to be beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure they're all going to be beautiful, and then all of them not ever be used ever again.
That's a
So
shame.
let's touch on it a little bit here right before we wrap up. We got World Cup coming in 145 days. We got MLS season. I should be finishing around that time, right?
MLS season ends in regular season September, playoffs October.
Okay. All right.
So right before then.
So now it's weird, right? Because Kris is just getting into. So that's actually, and then the European season kicks off in August, right? At the middle of August.
They all start at different times. I believe the EPL starts at the beginning of August.
Yeah, and then like 2 weeks later, La Liga and so on and so forth. So for the first time ever, the World Cup was going to interrupt all the leagues except for the MLS, right? So you have the MLS players, right? Like whoever comes in, whatever MLS players play for their national team will actually be off season, so they might not be in great as a shape. And then you have players that are just 3 months into their season and hoping there's no injuries. So this could be one of the craziest World Cups ever, where you might see an unforeseen team win it because you're literally in the middle of your season and at the end of another one.
Or you might see a good player come from the depths of the team that has a ton of injury.
Exactly.
And my understanding is that they're moving the roster spots, right? It's going to go from 23 to 26, is it?
Yeah, it's already confirmed. I think last Wednesday FIFA confirmed that it's 26 players when it used to be 23. And I think on next episode we should break down what that roster could look like for the US, because I have my opinions on a lot of it.
I know.
You know what I mean? Like the U20 is going on right now. There's a Mexican American kid that plays for RSL. We also have a kid called Diego Luna. That kid is a monster. He used to lose a couple pounds for playing soccer, but some playmaking wise, baller, bro. And he looks like every possible star. But he plays midfield, and right now that's where we're deepest at. We got 10 players on that right there.
I know that we're wrapping this up, but I did want to ask you something, because I know you were watching the game yesterday.
Yeah,
I heard that there was some fist thrown at some point
at the end of the game. Yeah,
could you take us through that, because I heard about it, but I haven't seen it yet.
So you can't clearly see what happened, right? Because the camera isn't on them. Remember, it's an international feed. I think they're playing in Honduras. First of all, it's a horrible pitch. It's the same one that the U.S. played Honduras on. It's trash. It's pathetic.
So this was a game between Honduras and who?
No, it was a game between Costa Rica and the U.S. yesterday. So right now, CONCACAF is having their tournament for the under 20. So it's 20 and under. So if you know what I mean, like it's 20 to 17, roughly 20 to 18. So they're having that tournament right now, and U.S. is in the semifinal, and they play. I want to say they play Honduras in the semis, because Honduras just beat Panama, cheating, but whatever. It's in their countries what's going to happen. So at the end of the game, there was a lot of back and forth. There's a lot of history between us and Costa Rica. There's a lot of generational beef there. It's always one of our toughest opponents. But at the end of the game, like all of a sudden, like right off where the camera is, like the camera's panning towards the right goal, and all of a sudden you just see like a straight up brawl happen where everybody's rushing the pitch, and people are running away from it. So you can't clearly see how it all started, but you could clearly see fists being thrown, 100%.
Was it during the game or after the game?
It was at the end of the game. It was. I mean, U.S. won 2-0. It was a comfortable win. Paxton Harrison, Brendan's little brother, scored both goals. But it was like towards the end of there was some fouls. Like there was nothing in the game where like you would have seen that coming, right? Like something must have been said. But I think Costa Rica missed the penalty, and they stood in the U.S. The U.S. got some dogs on this squad though, boy. Like U.S. stood over them, like, yeah, you can see they're talking shit. Like, yeah, bitch, of course you were gonna miss that. Like he's on the floor because he slipped, and they're standing over him, like 3 players. So the animosity was there. So shit popped off when they eliminated him. But you can't clearly see who threw the first punch or what. But my money is on Diego Luna. Like that guy. Like if you pull up a picture of him, that guy definitely threw the first punch. Like it was in this shit. He was in that shit. Like I give it to that kid is a baller, bro. Like he sees the field the way you want like a midfielder, a cam seeing the field. There's other couple good players on it, but you know what I mean? We'll get into that at a later date.
He's 18.
Well, just to bring this back full circle, Lassiter, who plays for Inter Miami, also plays for Costa Rica.
Costa Rica.
Yeah. Oh, and Noah Allen plays for U20s for the US.
Yeah. Noah Allen's on there.
Yeah.
Noah Allen. That's our boy right there. Well, look, I think the U.S. is set as far as in the future. If this sport becomes popular in this country, with the size of this country and the resources we have, training facilities and trainers and things like that, how are we not going to be one of the top teams eventually in this sport? I think it's coming. I've been telling Ben for 8 years, 2026 is our year. Are we going to win it all? No, but I could see 2026 us making it to the Final Four. I've been saying it, and I'll keep saying it until it happens. 2026, we're making it to the Final Four. We're the host team, and we're going to have all those young dogs come up and play in the national team. 2026, Final Four.
I have one question for you guys. Like, if you look down our roster, right? Like, we have a lot of international Americans, right? Like, we have German Americans, things like that. I think where we need to start, not we, us, because we have no say in who U.S. picks, but I think where they miss the boat a lot is they don't have a lot of like Latin American players on the squad, right? Like you can't like off the top of my head, I can't think of one. Like as far as like because they lose a lot.
I can't talk about the young guys, but like Bedoya is Colombian.
No, I'm saying like that actually plays now. I'm saying like the plays
that plays right now.
Team. Yeah,
we don't need that. If we get a bunch of LeBrons playing soccer, forget
right.
about
No,
it.
but no, man. I need some Jose's on this squad, bro.
So just give me a bunch of LeBrons, and we're gonna look. How do you think France is so dominant? Look.
Some, but you're getting a bunch of Grayson Allens, though.
France. How does France do it? Conte isn't really from France.
Of course, neither is Mbappe. Like what?
Pogba isn't really from France.
Yes.
We know what's going on here. We got LeBron. We're going to get LeBron all over that field, and we're going to dominate.
All right.
Look, we either need Jose's on the field or cutting the grass. One of the two.
Okay, so let me go ahead. You could say that I want no parts of that because
I want nothing.
I want nothing to do with that.
I think that I can be able to say clearly that we either need some Jose's playing on the grass or cutting the grass.
Your son's name is Jose, isn't it?
Listen, let's not talk about that, okay?
Let's not bring facts into this conversation.
Let's not do that. I love the name Jose.
Yeah, obviously.
Look, I'm not saying that yes, we need LeBrons, but that's not right now. Like I was saying, like we have a bunch of Grayson Allens. That's not to knock on Grayson Allens, but historically, and we could get into that, you know what I mean? Like,
but I'm not even talking about just race, right? I'm talking about athleticism. Athleticism.
Right.
Like
but I'm saying like
LeBron is 40.
We have a bunch of Mexican Americans, right, that always choose Mexico. Like Diego Luna is a Mexican American. He's not cap tied to us. Like those are the battles that we need to win because that comes with a different energy. Like you bring that in, like even if the other, like I think you need that kind of interactions with those with the, you know what I'm saying, to have that, because that he's gonna bring a different skill set, right? Like he's gonna play differently. You know what I'm saying? Like you see a Puerto Rican boxer and a Mexican boxer. Those are two different skill sets, but they bring the best out of each other. We got to start winning those battles. Not necessarily like like you know what I mean? Like Mexico's really our rival in that, in the sense of for those players. Like we need to win more of those battles because I can't think of the last one that we've won. Mexico players go there and they go there to die because they played till like they're 40 and then the young kids never get burned.
No, I get what you're saying, but I mean, all in due time. I mean, little by little, we're gonna get there.
No, yeah, and like I said, look, I birthed Luca De La Torre. I told you guys a year and a half ago about him, and now I think he's the number 2 behind Musa, like the kid. So look out for him. I think he's moving. I'm hoping he's going to like Leeds or something and making a move from. I think he plays in Belgium. making a move. Like there's young kids that are, and he looks old as shit. He has that old man face because he's like 19 or 20. He looks 37.
Well, I definitely want to hear your opinion on this team next time that we get on, because I mean Jordan Morris, I remember him from a couple teams ago. I mean at this point you might as well. Yeah, I mean at this point you might as well call back Dempsey and what's that guy, the midfield bald
Donovan?
guy. The bald guy.
Oh, Michael Bradley.
Don't you? Bradley.
Let's end this right now before I go off. Let's end this right now before I just go off for the
Michael Bradley.
87 minutes.
So all right. So to wrap this up real quick, Inter Miami plays FC Dallas for some reason July 4th at like 8:00 at night. I don't know why they would think that that's a good idea. Horrible idea. I'm gonna have to watch that on DVR. But their striker Jesus Ferreira plays for the U.S. men's national team. You said we need more international players. He's Colombian.
Yep.
So I figured we'd put that all together. We got a Colombian on the team. He was born in Colombia. And they play against Inter Miami on Monday. Hopefully we get a dub, but we'll be back next week to talk about it. That and U.S. men's national team. Great first episode. Thank you guys for joining. And we'll catch you guys on the next one.
Peace.